EA is now on Twitch. Join us Wednesday nights when Alistair reads a bedtime story, and Sunday mornings for a few hours of chill casual gaming, plus interviews, special guests, pickup streams, and more. Visit twitch.tv/EA Podcasts and follow us to be notified when we go live, plus access VODs of past broadcasts.
Escape Pod, Episode 775, Spaceship October, by Greg Van Eekhout.
Hello, I'm Alistair and welcome to Escape Pod. This week's story comes to us from our 15th anniversary anthology. Available now at all good booksellers, print and digital, the Escape Pod anthology collects work from some of the best authors in the field and gives you a perfect cross-section of just what we do here. So, if you're new or here because of the book, welcome. And if you've been here a while and bought the book because of the show, welcome. Spaceship October by Greg Van Eekhout touches on a lot of my favourite things about the genre, but does so in very subtle ways. Greg's been a frequent flyer in EP's sky for some time now. He's one of the best flash fiction writers in the world, and arguably his ambition there is outstripped only by his ambition for long-form fiction. Cog, his recent middle grade debut, has made my Hugo shortlist, and I trust if you've read it, you'll consider doing the same thing. If you haven't, you should. It's a modern classic. Your reader this week is Peter Baravish. Peter is not just an extraordinarily talented reader in his own right, he's also the senior audio producer for Podcastle. This uniquely equips him to do two things remarkably well: create and recognise amazing audio fiction, which is one of the many reasons he's here, and one of the many reasons he's a pleasure to work with. Congratulations too to the Podcastle team, who won a British Fantasy Award recently. Go Team Castle, oh and go Team Taco Bully. So, without further ado, it's story time.
Spaceship October by Gregory Van Eekhout. Narrated by Peter Adrian Baravesh. When you live on a spaceship, you learn to make your own fun. Exploring the tunnels is some of the very best fun the October's got. After school hour, me and Drawler go scuttling through the darkest conduits you ever will find. The starboard hab gets minimal heat, so our breath clouds in the light of our head torches as we crawl on our hands and knees. "You hear that?" Drawler whispers from a couple of meters ahead. I do hear it. A deep, wet wheezing that sounds exactly like Drawler trying to spook me. "You better go ahead and check it out, Drawler." "Nah, Kitch, it's behind you. It smells your butt. It's a butt hunter." I laugh at Drawler's stupid joke, because the stupider, the funnier, and she's by far my stupidest friend. We're both from Aft Hab, both from the same birth lottery, and out of the 8 babies born that season, we're the only survivors. It used to be the 3 of us, me and Drawler and Jam, but Jam died last year along with her parents when the CO2 scrubbers in their cube failed. The scrubbers were item 33 on the Fix'em's to-do list. "How much farther?" I asked Drawler. "Just a couple of panels." It's more like a couple dozen panels, but we finally arrive at the section of conduit above Town Square. Using just our fingers, Drawler and me remove the fasteners holding the panel in place and slide it aside, just enough for us to peek out. Down below, a crowd settles on the rings of benches surrounding the lawn. The brass band toots Onward or Bust in a marching beat, their jackets sparkling with silver buttons and silver loops of rope. Drawler and I exchange a sad look. Jam wanted to be a drummer and wear a thick, warm jacket like that. The odds were against an aft habber like her, but she was good enough that she might have made it. Once the tooting is over, one of the vice captains ascends the grandstand. The audience stands and salutes in respect. Everyone on the October acts like salutes are required, but White Madeline told us saluting was never in the contract the original families signed. The 4 habbers made up the requirement only 80 years ago. The kind of people who come to witness a course correction are the type who do what they're supposed to. The vice captain says some stuff into a bullhorn. It's too distorted for me and Drawler to make out actual words, but we know what he's saying, because this isn't the first time we've watched a course correction from the conduits. He's announcing the name of the violator and their crime. The guards bring out a man, their hands gripping his arms and shoving. He's dressed in thin brown paper coveralls. His face is bloodless. I bet he's shivering in the cold. "I've seen him before," says Drawler. She doesn't know his name, but he does look familiar. Maybe I've spotted him in line at distro, or maybe on a community service detail. Yeah, that's it. A few months ago, we were on the same crew scraping mold off crop troughs in the farm module. He was quiet and sniffed a lot. "What do you think he did?" Drawler asks. "I bet he buggered a robot." Drawler laughs because it's stupid. The vice captain says something. His voice just a wah 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 to us, but when a guard holds up a 1x2 meter rectangle of insulation padding, the man's crime is obvious. Pilfering. "Can't blame him," says Drawler. I nod. I think he's an aft-habber like us, and sometimes it's so cold that it's weird you wouldn't steal some insulation padding. "Think they'll flog him or space him?" "Nah," Drawler says. "It's not that big a crime." "Depends on the vice captain's mood. What if he's grumpy? What if he didn't have a good dump this morning?" Drawler laughs, but not a lot. She had a great-great-uncle who got spaced, or so the family story goes. I think her parents were just trying to scare her into being dutiful. The longer we wait for the vice captain to pronounce his sentence, the less fun any of it seems. The crowd goes so quiet we can actually make out what the vice captain says. "For the crime of pilfering, you, man at Leif, are sentenced to a year's service of filter scrubbing while clamped." A guard yanks one of Leif's arms behind his back and clamps it to the small of his back. I whistle low. I had my mandatory scrub day last week. It was a long 4 hours with a mountain of filters, a wire brush, and a bucket of solvent, and my hands and shoulders just stopped aching yesterday. Man at Leif gets a year of that? With only one arm? "I'd rather be flogged," says Drawler. "Well, pilfer something and maybe you'll get your wish." Drawler is about to say something stupid when the brightest light I've ever seen turns everything white and painful. "Violation!" a voice booms. It's a Doomba. I try to scream, "Run!" but it comes out as a choked cry. Drawler copies me and makes the exact same noise. With the ceiling of the conduit only centimeters above our heads, there's not enough room to run. We can only crawl from the drone really, really fast. But not fast enough. We get about 50 meters down the conduit when Drawler howls. The drone has a shock wire in contact with her ankle. Her hair floats, a halo of fuzz. She's all and through tears and gritted teeth. Of all the times to run into functioning tunnel security. What will I do if it kills Drawler? How will I get her body back to the hab? What will I tell her parents? What will I do without my friend? I'm so scared for her that I don't have any room to be scared for myself. I just have to get her out of here. Lying on my back, I kick at the conduit wall. Once, twice. On the third time, something splinters. I kick again. The wall cracks in a wide, jagged fissure. 2 more kicks and it comes apart in shards. I grab Drawler's arm with both hands. The Doomba's wire is still on her ankle, and the shock travels from her to me. A searing ache bores through my bones. My spine grows numb. Without knowing what will happen next, I yank Drawler to the gap I made in the conduit and toss her over the side. I dive after her. It's a long fall. We land in a bone-jarring heap. My breath comes in wheezy spasms. Drawler just whimpers, curled up in a ball. Above us, the Doomba lingers in the conduit, uselessly reaching through the gap with its shock wires. For a second I think it's going to come down after us, but Doombas can't fly. They just roll on their little wheels, and since we're no longer in the conduit, its job is done. The drop doesn't look as far as it felt, which is good because it feels awful. Wincing, I get to my feet and timidly move my joints and pat my sore parts. Everything hurts, but everything works. I help up sniffling Drawler, and we determine that she's pretty much in the same shape as me. Where are we? The only answer I have is nowhere we've ever been. It's a huge room with high ceilings, almost as big as a cargo hold. Everything is white surfaces lit bright, like a vision of heaven. The deck plates are some kind of weird material, white and hard and smooth and cold to the touch, shot through with veins of black. Fancy pillars with carved curlicue tops hold up the arched ceiling. Strangest of all is the air. It's warm. And there's music, completely different from brass band marches. Gentle notes rising and falling and mixing together in a way that reminds me of the forest scenes they sometimes project at town square, so we don't forget the October isn't just floating pointlessly in space, but that we're going somewhere, and our great-great-great-grandchildren will live on a planet of trees and lakes and grain fields and sunshine. I think that's organ music, Drawler says. Didn't White Madeline tell us about organ music once? White Madeline told us a lot of things. She told us how the ship was different for the first generation, with more power and more heat and light and more things that worked, without an entire Hab Warren sharing a single power cell. And that's how things were supposed to be until the October delivered us all the way to Nova Terra. But there were things that happened even before the ship left Earth orbit. Things like cost-cutting and budget cuts and low-bid contracts. Earth stuff I never understood. No, seriously, Drawler whispers in awe. What is this place? Only one way to find out. I take the first step and Drawler follows me. Treading softly on the shiny floor, we walk for what seems like the entire length of a module before we come upon a body. At first, we think it's just some strange piece of equipment, a long box resting on the floor about 2 meters long, a meter wide, and as tall as my knees. It's made out of the same smooth, veiny stuff as the floor, with some decorative curlicues and whatnot. Cables anchor it to the floor, and as I come closer, I hear a familiar hum. It's drawing power, I say. Drawler doesn't answer. She just leans over the box, eyes wide. Carved into the top is the October's motto, Onward or Bust, and right above the words is a small glass window. Under the glass, behind a thin haze of frost, is a face. It's a woman, eyes closed in peaceful rest. Her cheeks are white as milk paste, but plump, like she's well fed despite being dead. What's wrong with her? Drawler says. Why? Ain't you never seen a dead person before? It's a corpse. I'm acting all sophisticated, but I'm as spooked as Drawler. Just because I've seen death doesn't mean I'm used to it. And normally the dead are in bags that get spaced or fed to the recyclers if the recyclers are working. I wonder which treatment my sister will get. She's been sick for months and she's not getting better. I keep expecting the corpse to open her eyes and punch a hand through the glass and reach at us with twitchy claw fingers. The box isn't the only one. Up ahead there's dozens of them, maybe hundreds, stretching off to the horizon, the hatch at the far end of the module. Should we keep going? Drawler asks. Ain't that what they teach us in school hour? Ain't that what Onward or Bust is all about? Forward, ever forward, never stopping, until we are home. Home ain't forward, Drawler observes. Home is behind us, an aft hab. Forward is... who knows? It's the principle of the thing, I snap. Drawler makes a face at me, and onward we go. More faces behind glass, more boxes drawing power. A few of them have bright red and yellow and purple and white flowers laid on top. I only know they're flowers because I've seen them in the projections at Town Square. Flowers are a kind of beautiful plant that you mostly don't eat. I rub a soft petal against my cheek. I never seen these growing in the troughs. If they got a secret place like this, I bet they got secret farms too, Drawler says, knowingly. But why? Why keep all these dead people? And why all hooked up like this and stuff? A voice saws through the air like a rusty knife. I think a better question is, what are you doing here all trespassing and stuff? A tall woman with a cracked old face glares at us, hands on her hips. Long yellow hair spills out under an orange cap. The cap matches her coveralls, which come with pockets down the legs and a tool belt hanging from her narrow waist. She's a fixum. Run or tackle her? Asks Drawler. Don't bother, the fixum scoffs. Old Lodi can't give chase, not with these knees. And you don't got mean looks in your baby eyes. Besides, you gotta stick around long enough to patch up that big hole you made in my conduit. Drawler and I kind of stare at each other like fools, not knowing what to do. If we were going to run, we should have done it right when the fixum startled us. Now, running off would seem weird. And the fixum is right about our mean looks. We don't have any. Well, you gonna just stand there with your mouths hung open, or you want a tour of the mausoleum? Drawler and me trip over each other to answer. We want a tour! We follow as Lodi leads us among the boxes. Coffins, she calls them, and rattles off the names of the occupants. Byron Cheddar, Wang Shusen, Muthoni Jaga, Temperance Brown. Kitch, we know these names, Drawler says, excited for some reason. Everybody does, because the teacher makes us recite them in school hour. These are the firsts, the first generation that left Earth, the original travelers who set out on the October to Nova Terra, our great and so on grandmothers and grandfathers. Why keep the whole dead lot of them here? Drawler asks, while Lodi keeps rattling off names. Lodi's thin lips distort in a bitter smile. Who says they're dead? I go over to the nearest coffin and peer through the glass at a pallid face. Ain't they? Not if old Lodi is doing her job right. And say whatever you want about me, but I do my damn job. They're alive, and they'll stay that way, onward or bust. I can see how Drawler is trying to put it all together. So, when we die, they keep us alive, and we'll all be alive when we get to Nova Terra. Us, our parents, our children, going up and down the line, all of us together. That sounds so nice. If we stick the journey out, we all get to step off the ship and bask in the sunlight of Nova Terra. We all get to live under open skies, big and free. Me and Drawler and Jam together again, along with our folks and our children and their children, all the generations backward and forward. It sounds so fair. That's how I know it's a lie. It's just the first generation that gets kept alive to Nova Terra. Ain't that right, Lodi? The old woman nods. The firsts put it in the contract and paid for it before the October even left Earth. This is a generation ship where the very oldest are the very richest, so they never have to give way to the youngest. Drawler switches from dreamy to confused. That's not fair, she says, her voice a little wispy, like she's just discovered something. Why not put us all in coffins when we die? Why not do this for everyone? Lodi bats this away like a dust mote. How many power cells you figure it takes to keep all the firsts alive? A Hab Warren houses 8 families and goes through 1 power cell a year. That's running on minimum energy, dim lights, chill air, low filtration, ration power consumption for materials recycling and fabrication. I don't know, Drawler says, looking around to take in the whole space. 100? 100? Lodi guffaws. Each coffin uses a power cell a year, and there's 367 coffins. Then you add in everything else, the lights, the music, the heating. The original requisition was more than 2 million power cells. That was supposed to keep the first going all the way to Nova Terra, but it turned out to be an underestimate. No surprise. Every year we have to reassign cells from other parts of the ship just to make sure the coffins remain juiced till planetfall. Then why the lights and the music and the heat, says Drawler. The outrage starts to build. This is just waste. It's not a waste if the firsts wanted it, and they wanted to make the journey in a dignified setting. I think of my sister, coughing in our cold warren. I think of Jam, slowly suffocating while she slept. I want to be furious at someone. I want to blame the firsts, lying cozy in their coffins, and the vice captains handing out punishment, and the 4 Habbers and the people in the bridge tower we never see, but Lodi's the one here, so I take it out on her. Why do you help them? I almost scream. Why not tell someone? I'm telling you, ain't I? And what are you going to do about it? That's right, nothing. Same as anyone else. Only you're just kids, so you're not going to put me in a muzzle. She seems like she's having an argument with someone who isn't here. Then her face gets real sad. Anyway, I'm old. Dropped my last egg. And my wife, Tilda, passed last year. I'm sorry, I say, out of polite habit. Lodi doesn't even hear me. Tilda was supposed to lie with me here after she died. But where is she? Being prepared, says the uppers. Prepared my elbow. It's been 16 months. They spaced her, or recycled her, and they'll do the same to me when I'm gone. Same as they did for all the mausoleum tenders who came before me. They lie so much they don't even bother making good ones anymore. Drained, she takes a deep, slow breath. She looks at us like she just remembered we're here. Go back to your cold, damp warrens. Tell anyone you want. Nobody ever does anything about anything. Nobody corrects the course. They just correct the tellers. Back to the tunnel with you. Oh, you're making us go back through the conduit? Drawler protests. There's a Doomba in there, almost killed us. You survived it once, you'll survive it again. Or maybe you won't. But either way, you gotta fix that panel you broke. I'll get the ladder. Once we're back up in the conduit, we discover there's no more reason to fear the Doomba. It's keeled over on its side, leaking the bitter stink of melted wires. It'll be numbered 900 and something on the Fix'ems list. While I hold the panel in place, Drawler inserts the fasteners. Wait, I say, just as she's about to put in the last one. Leave it. Why, you thinking to come back here? I do something with my eyebrows that means neither yes nor no. One more thing. I grip the Doomba with both hands and pull where its body joins in a seam. It's not easy, but I manage to crack it open, just enough to squeeze a hand inside and yank out its power cell. It's only a mini. It's probably mostly spent, but I'm keeping it. Kitsch, says Drawler, shocked. That's pilfering. I point down at the mausoleum. No, that's pilfering. Late at night, after meal, I sneak into our Warren's utility closet and replace the mostly dead power cell with a mini from the Doomba. My sister still coughs through the night, and my parents' faces are dull with worry, but the air is warmer and drier and smells cleaner. She dies 3 weeks later. The mausoleum lights still blaze bright. The organ music still wafts through the vast chamber with its vaulted ceilings and fancy pillars. The coffins still hum with power. There's no sign of Lodi, but even if she interrupts me, I don't think she'll stop me. She says nobody ever makes a real course correction. I have a hunch she might like what I'm about to do. Or maybe she's dead. Maybe she already has a replacement. Kitsch, what are you doing? It's Drawler, climbing down from the conduit on the ladder I made for my sister's knotted bed sheets. Damn it, Drawler, go home. You don't need to be here. I came by your Warren, but you weren't home. I was bringing by some toasted meal for your parents. It's from me and my folks, in case yours aren't up to cooking. You know, on account of your sister. That was real thoughtful, Drawler. Tell your folks thanks, and go on home. I will once we're done here. What is it we're doing? She says we, because whatever I'm doing, she's doing, because that's how Drawler and me always work, and trying to get rid of her would be like trying to scrape mineral crust off a bulkhead. I show her the empty pillowcase I brought, plus a scratched and dull pry strip. I'm going to take their power cells, I tell her, moving toward the nearest coffin. But you do that, won't they die? Suppose they will. Kitsch, that's murder. I look at a white face behind glass. Etched on a little plate is the name High Breaves. She's one of the first generation we learned about in school hour. When I saw the bodies in the coffins the very first time, I thought they were dead. But now that I know they aren't, they look a little different to me. They look like they're sleeping. They look like they're at peace. They look happy. Lodi said the mausoleum goes through 367 power cells a year. How many power cells would it take to warm the aft hab? To keep our air clean so people like Jam and her folks don't die? To run our recyclers so we have raw materials and enough meal and medicine? To keep more babies like my sister alive? Not that many. I jab my pry strip between the edge of the glass and coffin lid. I should only have to kill a few firsts to make things a tiny bit more fair.
One of the age-old debates in science fiction is what constitutes age-old. It's not just SF, in fact, but all of literature where the patina of respectability gets thicker the longer something has been around. Look at my professional backyard, and the various old white men who haunt horror like Banquo's ghosts at IHOP. Their very persistence insisting things should be done at least partially like they've always been. I mean, after all, isn't that the best way? No, not always. In fact, not maybe over 50% of the time. And of course, in some cases, it's not a bad thing. But what's even better is seeing the toxic elements of these individuals being increasingly reassessed and viewed through different, diverse, fun lenses. And what's particularly interesting is seeing what happens in SF, where that often happens with tropes instead of authors or authorial intent. I love how Greg has taken the idea here, not just of the generation ship, but of what it actually is. He's looked at the romance that hides behind and the truth that hides behind the romance. It's really cool. That romance tells us a generation ship is a group of brave pioneers, sacrificing generations of their families to an idea. The truth is that this is the future's cathedrals, built and steered by those with no hope of seeing them land. Faith as fuel, science as the driving force behind survival, and the propagation of human culture. The truth? Well, the truth is grungier. The truth is power cells failing, fading paint. The truth is you inherit the space you lived in from your parents, who inherited it from theirs, and probably some clothes too. The truth is, you're a passenger in a car where the doors are welded shut, heading somewhere you have no say in, won't live to see, and know you cannot get McDonald's at the drive-thru. Chris Buchholz minds some wonderfully dark comedy from this in his novel Severance, but Greg takes a subtler, I'd argue slightly braver route. This is a story not about arriving or even taking control of the flight, but of taking control of yourself and your life. There's real darkness to it too. Lives are going to be lost, but the question of sustaining those at the cost of everyone else? Well, that's another theoretical argument, and that's disaster capitalism. Or perhaps in this case, deep space disaster capitalism. Because out here, knowledge really is power. The question is, what needs the power more? And who needs the power now? Expertly written and read, thanks to you both and to everyone who's bought the anthology to date. Escape Pod 15th Anniversary is available now. We just started paying associate editors, who are slush readers and the first line of contact for every magazine and author. I'm not kidding, every single one. They are the unsung heroes of the industry. It is past time we sung them. We're currently paying all 4 shows associate editors at a reduced rate because we aren't quite at the target donation yet, but it was time to get this rolling. So, we still need your help, especially as in addition you also pay for literally everything else. Stories, staff, tech, you name it, you pay for it, so thank you. And if you can, please either donate time or money. For time, it's easy. Did you like the story? I did. Then talk about it on social media, leave a review, anything like that helps like you would not believe. Money, literally the only thing that helps more than time. You can subscribe and get free audio goodies galore from as little as $5 a month through either Patreon or PayPal, and if you have Amazon Prime, with 5 minutes you could support us with $5 a month there for free. Go to escapeartists.net/Twitch and find out more. We'll be back next week with Cloque Nawake by Nelly Geraldine Garcia Rojas, translated by Silvia Moreno Garcia, read by Carlo Yeager Rodriguez, hosted by Matt Olivas, and audio produced once again by the always capable Adam. Then, as now, will be a production of Escape Artists Inc. and released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. And we leave you with this quote from my new favourite song by Contender, who the final line of the chorus is also the title. Watching Interstellar didn't make it better. Reading Carl Sagan, looking kind of vacant. You say you're buying time, but you're always late. I'm starting to think you don't even want to go to space. See you next time, folks.